Eyewash is a concept most commonly used in baseball, and one that I have long been fascinated by. I'm not alone. Eyewash tends to be a common favorite when discussions arise among fans about their favorite baseball jargon. In April, Lindsey Adler wrote an excellent article in The Athletic explaining the history and usage of the term. Basically, she says, it means the annoyance of observing someone working for the sake of being seen working, or the feeling you get when you watch someone do something innocuous, but you can't help but roll your eyes at the sight of it. She gives a variety of baseball examples. It's the World Series level effort of hustle on every routine infield pop-up during the regular season, or an outfielder diving for a ball that lands 10 feet in front of him, or a coach putting on more of a disciplinarian affect when the general manager is on the field. Adler sources the term to the military in the 1800s when it was used to describe the kind of outward show that may be bogus or deceiving. I think the concept of eyewash contextualizes well to debate, and it inspired me to prepare this short video. My thesis: if your goal is to improve as a debater, you need to focus on doing the things that can actually help you improve, not the things that make it seem like you're improving or that you want to improve. While I don't want to discourage any students from enthusiastically participating fully in their summer debate institutes, I think it is important to caution you against false hustle, something that I see a lot every summer at debate camp. To be clear, eyewash is distinct from things that are just annoying. It often comes from a good place, and it usually takes a good thing and goes too far with it. If after listening to this video you notice that you tend to do some or all of the things I describe, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or even a bad debate student. But by recognizing how eyewash tends to manifest itself and adjusting your behavior accordingly, I think you can improve your Summer Debate Institute experience quite a bit. So, what follows are the 5 most common forms of eyewash I see from debaters during summer debate camps. First, perfunctory redos. Reworking speeches can be a very effective way to improve. My video, How to Use Speech Reworks to Improve at Debate, goes into a lot of detail about this. I'll link to it below. But many redos at camp are a waste of time because the student is just going through the motions. I put this first on the list because I think it is the most common form of eyewash at camp. Redos are very popular with debaters because they're an easy way to feel like you're doing something useful, and probably more importantly, they seem to signal your commitment level to your instructors. But they're often false hustle. Instead of cutting better cards, learning more about the arguments you're debating, recrafting your blocks, improving your strategy, and practicing your delivery, explanation, and refutation techniques, the redo requires only that you do it again. This is why I dislike the term redo, but whether you call it a redo or a rework, the important thing is that this exercise is only useful to the extent that you work hard on it. Otherwise, it's just eyewash. Second, gratuitous hand raising. Actively participating in group discussions is a valuable way to learn. But in order for everyone to benefit from discussions, adherence to basic etiquette is required. Most importantly, raise your hand when you have something thoughtful to contribute, not just something to contribute. Avoid repeating previous comments and avoid comments that interrupt the flow of the discussion. Don't dominate others. If you've made more contributions than others, wait before raising your hand again to give others an opportunity. Listen to the discussion with the goal of understanding others' perspectives and the subject being discussed, not just with the goal of responding. None of these are hard and fast rules. Different discussions call for different etiquettes, but it's always important to distinguish between meaningful participation and false hustle. Raising your hand over and over again might feel like it's displaying your enthusiasm and intelligence, but it often comes across as an arrogant attempt to monopolize the conversation. Instructors want to hear from everyone, including, but not exclusively, you. Make your contributions count, and you'll avoid the perception of eyewash. 3. Rote questioning. Asking individual questions of one's instructors can be an extremely valuable way to learn. Some students have a hard time mustering the confidence to do this, and I don't mean to dissuade them. That's not who I'm talking about. The students I am talking about are the ones that always ask individual questions, seemingly out of a sense of obligation, thinking that this is just what good students do. As an instructor, it's easy to tell, but hard to describe the difference between genuine questions and going through the motions questions. Basically, it's the difference between being interested in the answer and wanting to be interested in the answer. Or worse, wanting to check the box that shows you're interested even though you're not. At some point, for example, someone might have given you a few questions and told you to ask them after every debate. They might be right that these are good questions to ask, but asking them for the sake of asking them, out of a sense of duty, that these are questions one must always ask, doesn't help you. Instead, think about why it might be beneficial to ask these questions. What information or feedback do they elicit that you might not otherwise receive? Why is that information or feedback useful? In what circumstances is this information or feedback more or less useful? What is the goal of the question, and are there other ways to achieve it? When asked out of a genuine interest in improvement, individual questions are great and will be appreciated by your instructors. But disingenuous questions, the kind that are being asked just to ask, are eyewash. Fourth, compulsive transcription. Note-taking is an important technique for processing and retaining information. When done well, it will help you better understand what you're reading or hearing. But many students develop the habit of compulsively transcribing lectures and feedback from their instructors. This isn't helpful. While it might seem like taking such good notes shows your instructor how much you value their feedback, it can be a form of false hustle. You can zone out and transcribe. You can transcribe without being engaged. You can transcribe and then never think about the lesson again. What your instructor really wants to see is thoughtfulness. Are you listening? Are you thinking about what they're telling you? Are you processing it? And yes, are you taking notes that will help you retain the lessons in the future? The other problem with compulsive transcription is that the value of the notes you take does not just, or even mostly, come from taking them. It comes from using them to think more deeply about the subject you're studying. Some compulsive transcribers do later review and reformat their notes. That's valuable. But thoughtless note-taking for note-taking's sake, is eyewash. Fifth, superficial research. Debate research is very difficult. There are no shortcuts. Cutting good cards takes a lot of time and effort. At debate camps, the research process relies on the good faith efforts of students to work hard in order to produce useful materials. Some students mostly opt out of this process by wasting time, doing the bare minimum, if that, and avoiding as many research-related responsibilities as possible. That's laziness, not eyewash. But some students who would like to think of themselves as much more committed than those opt-outers are trying to fool themselves and their instructors with the illusion of diligent research work. These students tend to volunteer for research assignments and brag about the number and quality of cards that they've cut, but only until it comes time to review their work. Then their tone changes. They don't have as many cards fully done, but they have a lot of cards in process, and they found a lot of articles that are good, but the problem is that the assignment can't possibly be completed well because there are so many issues with it, and the answers to the argument are unbeatable, and there are no more articles defined, and on and on and on. These students tend to have very strong opinions about things after doing very little research about them. They tend to be very skilled at locating and copying and pasting cards from back files, something they don't like to admit being dependent on and often get defensive about when it is pointed out. From a distance, they can seem like hardworking and competent researchers, but a closer look reveals a lot of shortcomings. These students usually mean well, but they're not actually that much more productive than their openly apathetic peers. The difference is just that they are enthusiastically going through some of the motions of debate research, the debate research version of false hustle, whereas their peers are apathetically avoiding the whole process. The enthusiasm is commendable, but anything short of real, time-consuming, original debate research is nothing more than eyewash. In each of these 5 examples of eyewash, the source of the problem can be traced to a student behavior that began from a commendable place. Students that want to improve their speeches, enthusiastically participate in discussions, solicit extra individual feedback from instructors, take complete notes on what they're learning, and carry a heavy research load are doing a lot of things right. But sometimes these good habits can be carried too far. When that happens, they become eyewash, annoying facsimiles of themselves that substitute the illusion of enthusiastic learning for enthusiastic learning itself. Learning to distinguish between the two will foster better relationships with your peers and instructors and will ultimately help you get more out of your debate instruction. I hope this has been a helpful lesson that you can apply this summer at your debate institute. Good luck.